Hi, and welcome to British Dad Reacts. My name is John. Thank you for watching. And if you like this kind of content, then do what you feel is appropriate. This is part 2 of me getting down a rabbit hole about a track and some questions about where it started. And if you see the first video featuring Ray Charles and Barret Strong, and what I think is the similarities between the tracks, What I'd Say by Ray Charles and Money, That's What I Want by Barret Strong. Now, for many people, the more popular version of this song came from the Beatles.
The best things in life are free. You can keep it for the birds and bees. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. So loving don't pay my bill. What I want, that's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Now, I've got a number of videos to show featuring this track and a little bit of insight. The Beatles clearly were regarded as one of the most innovative, game-changing bands that emerged in the early 60s. And to get such a collection of musicians together, you know, the Mop Top Boys from Liverpool, was such an incredible thing. And it's nice on this particular track where John Lennon is singing. And for the front three to all have such great voices was amazing.
What it don't get, what can you? That's what I want. 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 Don't get everything it's true. What it don't get, what can you? That's what I want. 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 What I want. A lot of money. That's what I want.
Somebody's recolorized this version. The original was in black and white, and very cleverly done, I must say. And it's interesting when the Beatles, obviously this was a straight cover of the Barret Strong track, which was one of the first hits for Motown. And I talk about that in the previous video, because this was just a long kind of section that I really needed to split into two parts. But the Beatles did talk about, obviously, this being a straight cover, but also about the influence of the Ray Charles track that I mentioned, and how that also influenced this track, and also them kind of being guitar riff type of a band. So even the Beatles had influences, and that's clear. And they obviously took it to a new level. Now, in 1979, and I'm going to jump around a bit from a time point of view here, but another version kind of emerged, I think. And this was a kind of avant-garde band from London called the Flying Lizards.
In life for free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I want money. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. Your love gives me such a thrill, but your love won't pay my bills. I want money.
So this was the kind of post-punk period in Britain, and there was all sorts of new music emerging, and this track was incredibly popular at the time. Very, very odd band, never really made it big, but this track kind of catapulted them to fame, really. And there was something about it that was very appealing, that kind of stripped down, talking kind of version, really. Now, this track has been covered by so many artists. And I will name them at the end because it's worth checking so many of the versions on YouTube. I've put links to the videos that I'm going to show. But I wanted to pick out a couple of other covers that I just think, I don't know, somehow reflect this song's ability, this track's ability to be played in different genres of music. And be interesting to see if anybody remembers or recognizes this guy.
The best things in life are free. You can give it to the birds and bees. I need your money. That's what I want. Oh, I want. Your love gives me such a thrill, but your love won't pay Jerry Lee's bills. I need money. I got what I want. Yeah, I want money, baby. That's what I want. Yeah.
Wasn't described as the pumping piano for nothing. This was the late, great rock and roller Jerry Lee Lewis and his interpretation of the song. And he's such an artist of that rock and roll period, one of the greats of that period. Now, again, as I said, this track in some ways kind of defies definition of genres. This is an unusual version, and it's by a band called Moontalk, featuring Wilhelmina.
wanna pay my bills. I want money.
Almost a kind of drum and bass version, really. Real heavy sound to this. But a really, really good version. There are so many good versions. And it was difficult to pick. We would have been here for weeks if we'd have gone through them all. But I've listed a lot of the artists who covered the track in the description. Now, I started this video in part 1 with Ray Charles. And I still think that his version, or the track that he did, what I'd say, was I think the origin of or the genesis of this track somehow. But again, as I said in the first video, I'm not a musicologist. But as I started with Ray Charles and his track, I wanted to, in some ways, almost come full circle with this guy.
The best in life for free, yeah, yeah. But you can give up to the birds and they don't want some money, yeah. That's what I want, yeah, yeah. Want some money, 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 money. But I money can't buy everything, it's true. But what it can buy, you know, I can lose it. Want some money, yeah. Oh, yeah. Want some money, 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 money. That's what I want.
That was Stevie Wonder performing in Italy in 1970. Now, some of the artists who performed this track, in no particular order, included Marty Wilde, Led Zeppelin, The Supremes. John Lennon recorded it himself and did a fantastic version. The Rolling Stones. There was a band called The Stories, recorded a version in the Jason Statham film called The Bank Job. Another early band, the Kingsmen, did a version. Boyz II Men did a version. Great White, who were a rock band, did a version. Buddy Guy, a blues player, he did a bluesy kind of version. Bruce Springsteen's done a version. The Sonics, Bruno Mars, Dr. John, going back to that kind of, bluegrass, bluesy sound. David Gray, The Searchers, Mary Wells, and even an unusual version from the film Crazy Rich Asians by Cheryl K. So this is a track that's just been used by so many artists because it's such a great track. Now, I still haven't answered the question, and I'm not sure I'm in a position to answer it. Whether it was Ray Charles that started it with What I'd Say, or whether it was the Tamla Motown version of Money, That's What I Want. Does it really matter? Probably not. Is it a great track? Are both of them great tracks? Yes. So, a 2-part video, a bit of a long journey. I hope I did justice to it. I'm sure each person will have their favourites and who they remember the track by. So, this version was just about the track Money, That's What I Want. Starting with the Beatles and ending there with Stevie Wonder. Thank you so much for watching.